Greetings, I am Pillar Nexus, the Ancient Gladiator, today with Pillar Loves Tabletop Games. This is another episode of I'm covering an expansion to the game. And that expansion is Warrior Knights Crown and Glory. So, if you haven't heard me talk about it on a previous video, I bought this game used. Warrior Knights. It was advertised as having the expansion. It gets home to me. I open up the box. There's no expansion. The the game itself contained a lot of printed out laminated stuff, including the rules for the expansion, but no expansion stuff itself. So I reached out to them. I said, "Hey, let's find the person who sold you this used copy and get the expansion, or refund what I spent on the game equivalent to what the expansion would have amounted to, because I did not spend that much money on a game advertised as having the expansion if it wasn't going to have it." They had a brand new copy of this expansion just lying around, and they freaking sent it to make it right. So, Noble Knight Games, thank you very much for making this right. I will be going through you for a lot of used stuff, other gaming stuff going forward. I just hope your process is a little bit better in reviewing things going forward. But anyway, on to the expansion itself. So, there's three major variants that are compatible with each other. You're probably going to be doing the Four Glory variant for sure. It'll add new agenda cards, including stuff like Prevent Excess, Proven Allegiance, Royal Jester, which is a negative strength, and Supported Hiring. Interesting stuff like that to enhance the game. New event cards, stuff that goes off of the things that have been added, like Holy Guard going off of garrisons, Inquisition going off of advancements, the Nation of Defenders to add garrisons or fortifications. This is an expansion that features a number of things specific to certain nationalities of mercenaries. So Nation of Defenders goes off of having the most Lombard mercenaries. But those get shuffled in. As part of the setup, after shuffling the event deck, if there's any red events on top, they get cycled to the bottom of the deck to make sure there's a somewhat good chance of a decent event at the top. Yeah. More neutral action cards that are added in for each of the stacks. Worth noting that in the previous, the base game of Warrior Knights, it's 2 per stack. With the expansion stuff, it's now 3. Upgrade defenses the old card has been deprecated. Fortifying a city has gone from 4 crowns to 3. You can spend a crown to garrison a city instead, or repair a city as normal. Muster forces. In addition to removing casualties at 2 crowns per, you can recruit town level levies for nobles at a cost of 2. We'll cover garrisons and town levies real quick. Garrisons. So when they're purchased as part of upgrade defenses, they're not assigned to a noble. They go in front of you and you put a garrison token on a matching city. The garrison's whole 100 thing. You have to pay for the garrison every wages phase. If not, the card's discarded. If you lose a city that had a garrison, it's discarded as well. And then garrisons go back into the deck. There's only 8 of these. So as soon as they're all purchased, it's going to be a bit of a struggle to get much extra help. Town levies. So first off, you have to have a noble in that city and control it to do the town levies. That's part of muster forces. And there's only 1 levy per kingdom city. One of the other uses this set of cards is used for is at the beginning of the game. With fewer than 6 players, these are what you'll draw at random to raise those cities. Because having the entire kingdom available in 2 players is just silly. Adds more strategy, anyway. Levies are not paid for during the wages phase. However, if any mercenaries assigned to a noble desert during the wages phase, then all the levies assigned to that noble leave with them. And they go back into the deck. And if a noble dies, the levies have to be discarded after resolving casualties. So you'll probably resolve casualties on the levies themselves. And of course, they'll go back to the deck. But that's another way to get more forces for your nobles that way. The old Uncertain Times was just Shuffle the Fate deck. There's a new thing called a Scholar. They can discard a face-up advancement and draw a replacement. So let's go into advancements real quick. There are 2 new actions across 3 cards for your nobles, and you as a player. Enrich Mind and Forced March. Forced March is refresh one of your nobles and then pay to refresh additional ones. In the middle of the turn, it helps. But Enrich Mind is what we're looking at right now. Gain 1 knowledge, represented with the book, the same symbol used by the Freemasons. I remember seeing this when I first saw this, we were playing with it for like the first time. I thought they were called the Stonemasons. I was silly and young back then, but I wonder if I'm really that far off. But anyway, gain 1 knowledge, and if you have more knowledge than any other baron, become the Scholar. You may then buy an advancement card, and more than one if you are the Scholar and you have a sufficient number of knowledge tokens. So, as part of the setup of the game, there will be 3 random advancements just out there. Probably get put next to the assembly stuff. And whenever someone buys a card out of the advancements, it gets replaced. You are limited to 3 advancements. If you would have more than 3, they're discarded. But in general, it'll be stuff like battle enhancers. More casualties, prevent casualties, victory. You are limited to 1 of those battle enhancers per battle. You decide after you've drawn cards, but before you reveal. Black powder, improved plate mail, iron forged blades. There's parchment, which will let you basically have an extra advancement because it'll count itself. Lets you have a maximum of 5 instead of 3. And then there's stuff like just gaining crowns, influence, exhaust before moving nobles, or dealing with sieges, or other battle stuff, or purchasing other advancements, discounts, dealing with revolts and riots. There's another thing that I'll get at. We'll go over that here in a minute, though. Yeah. But the Scholar, there will be other things that trigger up the Scholar getting to decide. But that's the Uncertain Times and the Enriched Mind. Enriched Mind also goes to either assembly or taxation. to get to that sooner. Assemble troops for the neutral actions. Draw the top card of the mercenary deck, but then place one casualty token on the first available spot. So there will be more options to choose from, but then fewer of them will get chosen. So it's interesting. A pressing agenda. Draw the top card of the agenda deck and add to the current agendas. It'll be loaded on the next assembly. And then this card actually goes to assembly to potentially set it off. Add more politics. Research. The scholar may spend 2 crowns to draw the top card of the advancement deck. May discard it or purchase it at a discount of 1 knowledge. So that's why it might be good to be the scholar. Well, it's, yeah. And like everything else, it's entirely possible to be the scholar, the head of the assembly, and the head of the church. As if things weren't crazy enough already. Yeah. What else? Oh, the whole... the Fate deck has been swapped out completely. The old Fate deck is basically deprecated. No one's ever going to use it anymore. The new Fate deck is now twice as big, which makes it even more unpredictable. I think I forgot to mention it when I talked about it the last time. At the end of the turn, after you've collected influence, there's a possibility your city revolts. And you can either... pay twice the city's income or 1 faith. Yeah, if a riot comes up, you either do that or you put a riot token on your city. You cannot collect influence or income from that city. If it ever gets a second riot token, you lose control. That city's gone. Also, you can put a noble or garrison at the city. If there's a garrison or noble present in the city, the riot's kept under control. But yeah. Other things that'll come up are in combat, the retreat, draw 1 fate result. You have the option if you have those cards that say retreat, draw 1 fate, and you are the defender and you play enough of them, you can potentially retreat from battle just to be on the safe side. If the attacker plays as many or more than you, then they become draw 1 fate cards instead. Otherwise, it's still the same combat results of deal, prevent, casualties, and victories. There's a new expedition result called Funds Needed. Anyone who's funded into an expedition pays 2 crowns to the treasury or loses their investment. And then, of course, it's entirely possible to put funds into the expedition anyway to keep it going and then have the fleet loss. It sucks. One of the other things I want to point out about the new fate cards is they actually give you a little dot showing you where the city is. Now, it's hard to see on this camera. But it's very thoughtful that they did that. I'm glad. Other fun stuff. We've got new mercenary cards. Leaders and heralds for each of the nationalities of mercenaries. Leaders have their own special thing, and heralds are more just a template of each troop of that nationality on this noble, including this one, costs 1 fewer crown during wages. Their base wages are 2. At the start of the game, when the random mercenaries, the 50 and 100, are dealt, nobody can start with the special mercenaries like these. Yeah. Unique leaders and template heralds. Okay. And I think that's it for the For Glory side of things. The missions variant, which once people are used to the game, maybe add them in. When the influence pool runs out, in addition to counting your own influence, if you've achieved the conditions of your mission, then that gets you an extra 2. So, favor of the assembly. I have more combined total offices and charges than any other baron. It's an interesting one to go after. Lord of Chaos. No other baron controls more than 3 kingdom cities. Good luck with that one. Lord of Destruction. There are at least 2 more race cities than there were at the start of the game. There's stuff like having more faith and more crowns, more advancement cards, more overseas cities. It's more mercenaries. It's a way to shake up the game, and I like it. This is probably one of them. This and the advancements are probably like my 2 favorite parts of this. And then there's the King variant, which our particular group doesn't really play with it. It isn't really a fan of it. I want to try it at least once. So the setup for the game is influence per player 8. If you want a shorter game, 6. If you want a longer game, 10. But once the influence pool runs out, the player with the most influence becomes king. The game does not end, though, because they have to hold their crown. The game continues until a player has accumulated the starting influence per player times 2. So if you start with 8, then it's going to take 16. But anyway, with this variant, mission cards are not scored until somebody reaches that amount. But when any player becomes king, they get a number of King's Army cards equal to the number of players. In a big-ass game, that's a lot of power. They're considered regular troops, so they won't desert, but you still have to pay for them. And they're never discarded or lost unless another player becomes king. In addition, while you're the king, you receive an additional influence every turn. As you do with your other kingdom cities. Should a player, when attacked against a king's stronghold, they become the king. In addition to the normal spoils of defeating a stronghold, you have the king token and all the king army cards and assign them as normal. So the crown can still be passed around. And this is like, okay, you're going to be extra aggressive at this point. Which can be interesting. But anyway. But yeah, once someone's acquired the goal of influence, it'll end the game. The player with the most influence wins. You don't have to control the king token in order to win. You just have to have the most influence at the end. But again, at the end, if you've got a mission and you've accomplished it, You'll score it then as well. Anything else? Here's something that I missed last. This is another thing that I missed. When you draw fate cards for battle, in the base game, you are limited to a maximum of 10. In this, with the expansion, the maximum is now increased to 20. Of course, if you actually have that many mercenaries, it's going to be pretty impressive anyway. Yeah, I just love everything that they add to this. And and again, I'd still love to try the King variant. I know it's going to extend the game and it's going to be more brutal, but I think it's just interesting that they went with that. But yeah, the advancements are nice. The new neutral actions are nice. The missions are nice. The new fate deck is nice. All the added stuff is. This expansion is so fucking essential. I can't imagine this game without it. It's like StarCraft with Brood War or Warcraft with the Frozen Throne or Civ A New Dawn with Terra Incognita. It's like Fantasy Flight just has this thing of, okay, we're going to make a decent game that's going to get people hooked, and then we're going to throw in the expansion that should have been in since the start of it. It's like, it's just weird when I start getting into these like other games like New Angeles that had no expansions. That still weirds me out that there are no expansions for New Angeles. It's a decent game, but man, it could have used at least maybe some more setup cards to open up those options, or rules for making your own setup cards. But yeah, Warrior Knights Crown and Glory. Have fun getting a copy with the expansion at this point. It's a bit pricey. Yeah. Thanks very much for watching. This has been Pillar Nexus. Thank you for watching this very special episode, and I will see you next time.